Alright guys, today we're going to be treating something really exciting. It's one of the African plays that we ought to treat for both WAEC and JAMB. I hope you know that the syllabus is a harmonized syllabus. It's a unified syllabus. It's not the type where you treat different set of books for WAEC and treat different sets for JAMB. Okay, so I'm going to be exposing you to some deep secrets as to how to answer questions on this particular book, The Lion and the Jewel, written by Wole Soyinka. And of course, make sure that if you have not subscribed to this channel, do that right now. And then make sure you turn on the post notification so that immediately we post the video, you can also get the details on your phone. All right, so to this point, I welcome you to this class. It's going to be very apt. I'm going to try to do a summary of the content of Lion and the Jewel, an African play written by Wole Soyinka. He's a professor now, I hope you know. For you are seated there, thinking I'm just mentioning him. The man is a very renowned writer. He's a playwright, one of the biggest exports we have in Africa. All of his write-ups, all of his poems, all of his plays are very well sought after across the world. It's my uncle. He still called me yesterday. He called me. No, he flashed. So I was like, sir, you can't be flashing. He was not begging. I just told him, I don't do all this. So let's get straight to the details of the book. Once again, my name is Femi Michaels. I'm your celebrity teacher, and this content is proudly brought to you by a celebrity teacher production. Now, Lion and the Jewel, you can't just start reading the book without having these three things in mind. For every literature student, if you're a literature student indeed, you understand that to properly analyze any work of art, you need to put into consideration three major things before you even start reading. First, anything you want to read about, be it drama, be it prose, be it poem, always has a title. So it's only logical that the first thing you do is just get to know the meaning of that title first. Then you ought to know something about the life of the writer. Whether it is drama, whether it is prose, whether it is poetry, whoever has written the story is a human being, not a ghost. He has a life. There's something about him you ought to know. And it is in knowing these things that you are able to connect to the story itself. Okay? Then the last part is that you ought to be able to understand the use of diction. Diction, of course, is the choice of words. Some writers, they write very complex. You know, if you read their write-up, it becomes so difficult for you to interpret. Some, their write-ups are very simple. Some just hang in there, you know, for the average reader. We're trying to analyze or ascertain which that the writer has used in The Lion and the Jewel. All right, straight to the story. The Lion and the Jewel focuses on the disparity or the difference between the African culture and the Western culture. It will interest you to note that this story was written around the time when Nigeria had just barely gained independence, and there's this craze, you know, among Nigerians. Many of them are trying to act foreign. Many of them are just trying to show the world that they are not Africa, they're not a black man who eats amala. No, that they are much more refined also. And Professor Wole Soyinka was very angry and dissatisfied with this. He feels that there is no shame in expressing your cultural heritage. How can I be Yoruba? My name is Femi, and I'll pronounce my own name as Femi. That's wrong. So he wrote a story that is both comical and serious at the same time. In fact, there are many unnatural things about the way Wole Soyinka writes this work of art. The play on a normal day would have what we call acts and scenes. But in his own content, he didn't put it as acts and scenes. He just went straight ahead to use what we call unity of time. Okay, by dividing the story into three parts. One he calls morning, that's the first part, or we can say the first act. And many events happened under that. Once we're done with morning, he moved to noon. If you have the book with you, you can confirm what I'm saying. Right? He moved ahead to noon. And under noon, we had a series of events happening. And then after that wraps up, of course, we know that by the time it is night, it means the story is coming to an end. So it is at night that we have the conclusion, the denouement, or we can call it the dissolution. But of course, the story itself has a packed content. So who is Professor Wole Soyinka? If you have been a follower of his works, you discover that he's a man who speaks reality. He goes to every extent to portray anything that is not sensible. As a human, there are some things that ought to be sensible, like you ought to have a name. You can't be nameless, right? As a human, you have to have cultural heritage. You have to have a family line, and you have to be true to yourself. So Wole Soyinka's write-ups cut across these things. Also, he's a very renowned playwright across the globe. He beacons the hope and the searchlights to Nigeria so that people all over the world can see that there is a good mind in Africa. And of course, it's not just writing, it's passing message. So in this story, it talks to everyone who is fake, telling us to come back to our natural heritage and roots. And of course, we can make something unique and new out of our own cultural heritage. All right, so the title, The Lion and the Jewel. If you have read the story before, you discover that there is a man in the story by the name of Baroka. Baroka is referred to as the lion, and there's a lady in the story who is our protagonist. She's the protagonist of the story. The protagonist is somebody that the story centers around. So she's the protagonist of the story, while you have Baroka and Lakunle serving as foils of each other. Foil. A foil is a character who acts in opposite behavior to another. Though we can say that Baroka, despite being a foil, is also the villain of the story. Please take note that there's a difference between villain and antagonist. The villain becomes cruel, not from the very beginning. It becomes cruel in the exposition of the story. As the story develops, something changes him and he becomes cruel. That is a villain. But an antagonist, right from the beginning of the story, his intention, his strategic intent is to harm the protagonist, to make sure that the protagonist does not make any progress in life. So here we see that Baroka is labeled the lion, is the one referred to as the lion, while Sidi is referred to as the jewel. Can I also say something that this story is not about Sidi, Baroka, Lakunle? No. It's a symbol, it is symbolic of Nigeria's independence and Africa as a whole. You know, where Sidi represents Africa and the natural resources, you can see Lakunle portraying the ways and the patterns through which colonial masters try to take away Africa and our natural resources. So picture Sidi as the natural resources of Africa and picture her also as Africa. And then picture Lakunle as a colonial master, the white man, who tries to take away Sidi, in quotes, Africa and our natural resources. And of course, picture Baroka as our colonial fathers, our African nationalists who fought hard. You know, in many African countries, it was by force. In some African countries, it was by dialogue. Nigeria has a combination of the two. And you can see it where Baroka was trying to win Sidi back. Okay? Picture Baroka as our African nationalist. Picture Sidi as Africa and the resources. Then picture Baroka as trying to get Sidi back to himself. You know, he dialogues with her towards the end of night. Okay? And of course, we see that Sidi herself puts up a little resistance. But in the end, he was able to use force, the way some of our nationalist leaders, you know, use force to gain independence for us. All right, so at this point, I'd like us to take a break, and when we come back from that short break, I'll delve into mourning, the aspect of the story, mourning, the part that deals with the first scene, act rather, which is mourning. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, so welcome back. Yes, let's go straight to mourning. In the morning, the story starts from the base of the Odon tree in a village called Ilujinle, which is somewhere around the outskirts of Ibadan. Yes, present-day Ibadan. And we see that this village is a remote village. It is not civilized. In fact, it is nothing close to civilization. You will learn later in the story where they have never seen a car before in their life. In fact, they call the car the devil's horse. They've never seen a camera in their life, a photography camera, and they called it the devil's one high box, right? And of course, so many awkward adjectives with which they describe things, which shows that they have not been civilized at all. However, in Ilujinle, they have a leader whom they call the Bale, right? And in this case, Baroka happens to be the Bale. There have been several Bales before Baroka. In fact, the immediate past Bale, which is Okiki, happens to be the father of Baroka. And he marries Sadiku as his last wife before he died. And according to tradition, it is the son who succeeds his father must marry the last wife of his father as his own first wife. And that is how we see Sadiku becoming the first wife of Baroka. Alright, so Baroka is the Bale. That's the title of the leader in Ilujinle. And we have Lakunle, who is the grammar school teacher. He's about 22 years of age. He's young, but he behaves and talks like an old man. You see that he has adopted the Western way of dressing, the Western way of speaking, and he has this mindset that it is modernity that will change Ilujinle and move Ilujinle forward. But Baroka holds a reserve to the olden days and the culture of the people, and he believes that it is by maintaining the African culture that Ilujinle will move forward. Alright, so we see this play side by side with Sidi being in the middle. Sidi is the jewel. She's regarded in the story as the village belle. And in French, belle means beauty. Okay, so we see Baroka and Lakunle trying to get her hand in marriage. And of course, the morning starts here at the grammar school, where Lakunle opens a rude window and he sees Sidi coming from the stream. Sharp as a sharp guy. He disappears from the window and he reappears at the door. He has calculated, he knows when Sidi would approach the door. So as she's coming from the left hand side towards the front of the school, he has appeared at the door. He opens and is trying to woo her. But you see, by the window where he just left, two of his students, because he was teaching some students multiple times table, they have replaced him on the window and they were making mockery of him and of course looking at Sidi's bum. So before he could go ahead to talk to Sidi, he didn't fail to give them a heavy knock. So they disappeared into the class. He locks the window and there's quiet and tranquil so that we can hear Sidi and Lakunle, having a conversation. So the content of this conversation is that Sidi has a pail of water on her head. Lakunle is trying to ask her out again. He has tried to woo her before, she turned him down. And this time, he's much more purposeful. He wants her to be his wife. Quite alright. But we can hear from Sidi that Sidi says, I will marry you. In fact, there's a conversation where she says, Lakunle, I shall marry thee today. In fact, tomorrow. In fact, next tomorrow. In fact, any time that you choose, as long as you pay my bride price. So Lakunle is refusing to pay the bride price. He feels that he's a modern man, he feels that he's advanced, and he feels that he's civilized, and that the practice of paying bride price before marriage is primitive, and that he does not have any interest in paying the bride price. Sidi, on the other hand, she does not quite subscribe to that. She doesn't feel that Lakunle understands the peculiar nature of this request. In Ilujinle, if you're a lady and you get married and your bride price was not paid, forget it. There will be no drumming, no dancing, no cooking. You'll be shamed. In fact, Sidi expresses this better by saying that she cannot allow herself become the cheap bowl that the villagers will spit into. The gods forbid. But Lakunle is insistent. He's saying that if they marry, that it's not compulsory they stay in the village, that they could run away, or better still, he will tell everyone that he met her as a virgin, which is the purpose of paying the bride price. Sidi does not buy this, and while they're in the middle of this conversation, we see Lakunle telling Sidi that if she continues to carry a bowl of water on her head, which is the job of a man according to him, that the man should be romantic, the lady should sit and not work, that's the way of the modern man. That if she continues to carry load like that, that her head will soon be bent like that of a spider. And then he talks about her dressing, says that she exposes her cleavage, and asks her if she has no shame. But Sidi quickly retorts by saying that, Lakunle, you are the one that we should be asking that question. In this village, you walk about with your dress code and you blast verbose expressions that once you release a word, everyone put their hands on their head, shouting and screaming, and making a mockery of you. You are like the village idiot, the village madman, and you are the one who we should be asking if you have no shame. Lakunle, in response to this, says that he's the only one that can save the village and move it forward, that he has plans to change the village and turn everything around. This conversation goes on and on until there was noise heard from a distance. Some villagers had come to inform Sidi that the lost traveler, of course, someone who had been to Ilujinle in the past, which we are not aware of from the beginning of the story. And this tells us that the plot of The Lion and the Jewel is not a linear plot. It's not a straightforward plot. The story did not start at the real beginning. So through flashback, we go to the beginning, we go to some events that had happened in the past in order to know and reconcile present actions. So they come to her and they tell her that the lost traveler who came some times ago, who was a drunk photographer, a drunkard, who came to take pictures, has returned with the pictures in form of a magazine, and that is so beautiful. Sidi's eyes are wide open. She's inquisitive. She wants to know, did he really bring the book? I mean, the photographs, did he bring them? And out of those people who had come, the villagers, there were 5 girls. Their names are not mentioned. They're just mentioned as girl 1, or first girl, second girl, third girl, fourth girl, and fifth girl. All right. So they picked tongues to reply to Sidi by saying, yes, he brought them. You need to see yourself, Sidi. You are looking so beautiful. Sidi asked them to swear with their lives that they saw it. He said, we swear by Ogun that we saw your picture and you look so gorgeous. In fact, 3 pages are dedicated to you. 1 in front. And you see here, their description is so local that they are trying to describe portrait picture. And they said, there's a picture of you in front of the book. From here, they put their hand on their head like this. To here, they put their hand on their navel. To show you that that's from the top of the head to the navel. That's so, primitive way of describing portrait. Of course, and they said, in the middle of the book, there's a center spread. A picture of you with your arms stretched towards the sun. And it was all in black and white. And then one lady retorted by saying, oh, Sidi, you see, looking at that picture at that instant, it was as though that the moon, the sun itself, beg your pardon, was your own lover. And I could hear some of them say, "Aww," or someone say, "Aww." You know, that's a reaction from your comedy videos. That's exactly what I got from there when I was reading that part. Of course, so Sidi is so excited. She's like, tell me, where is this picture? Where are the books? And then one of them uses the hand to scratch the head, saying, they're with Baroka. He's watching and reading them. Said, so, why did you guys hesitate to reply me initially? What about Baroka? What of his own pictures? Are his pictures not in the magazine? And then someone replies, his pictures are there though, but it would have been better if he was omitted altogether. Sidi is inquisitive. What do you mean about this? So, I will not be the one to tell you. You tell her. So the person who is pointed at says he shares a corner with the village latrine at the back of the photo book, meaning that the whole king, the whole ballet, his picture was put at the back of the magazine in a very small corner with a place where toilets and latrines, the pictures are put. That's exactly where they put his own picture. This is quite ridiculous. And for me, while reading that part, I feel that it was a deliberate act on the part of the lost traveler. He has interest in Sidi. He truly wants to marry Sidi. And he feels that by taking pictures of her, he will make her a celebrity and she will fall in love with him. He's a drunkard from Lagos, and that's the ways of the people there. It has been from time immemorial. Lagos is not a normal place, an abnormal place. They use flashy things to scatter girls' head. Let me pray a prayer for you. I'm a deacon in my church. Any boy that wants to use flashy things, it will not catch you. Whether it's iPhone 14, you don't need it. You don't need iPhone 14. Or do you need it? Okay. Reply in the comment section. So exactly what I'm saying is that the mindset of Lagosians, as you know, it's been a long way coming. It believes that if you use flashy things to win the hearts of Sidi, that should be his forever. So by so doing, it demeaned the personality of Baroka by making him share a toilet space at the back of the word novel. Sidi hears this and contrary to what was expected, she bursts into laughter. And then she says, swear again by Ogun that these very words that you speak are true. We swear by Ogun, Sidi, we swear by our lives that this is true. Then Sidi enters into pride. In literature, we call this the hubris. The hubris. Hubris is the character mistake or flaw that leads to the downfall of a tragic hero or protagonist. So we see here that this pride swallows her up, and then she catwalks. She jacks her clothes. She goes back and forth and she says, if these things are true, then it means that I, Sidi, am the most esteemed of humans in the whole of Ilujinle. I shall not think of marrying any man from this land. Not even you, Lakunle. Not Baroka. So the pride takes over her and she attributes this joy to the lost traveler. Immediately we hear her say, very well then, let us dance the dance of the lost traveler. Can I pause a little there to say something? In conventional or traditional drama or play, whenever we want to have a flashback, there is a pause of the present action, we pause it, and then we try to recollect or remember what has happened in the past in order to explain a current action. Is that not so? Now, in the play Lion and the Jewel, Wole Soyinka never used flashback. In fact, to establish his own flashback, Wole Soyinka used what we call mimes. Now, what is a mime? A mime is acting without what? Without words. Okay, but in this case, it also involves the use of dance and music. African traditional dance and music with percussions. It's very symbolic. It's symbolic of what is to come. In literature, that is still called foreshadowing, telling us that the African dominance, that the African theme will eventually prevail at the end of the story. But let's continue. So they dance the dance of the lost traveler. And here, there is no voice heard, but they all mimic the life of the lost traveler, the way he came to Ilujinle, how he lost his way, how he got to a point where there was a lady who was having a bath by the name of Sidi. So it means that this story is linked directly to Sidi. This flashback, so to speak, or this mime is linked to Sidi. If you read that part in the book, it's quite boring. You might not even get what is happening there. So, but this is the explanation to that. Okay, there is a mime. Of the 5 girls, 4 were to sit or squat like a car tire, 2 in front, 2 at the back, right? Now, after much arguments, Lakunle was to play the role of that lost traveler because he's a white man and Lakunle behaves like the white man. Though he first objects that he's not drunk, that he has never drunk in his life and doesn't know how to act it. But they taunt him by saying that his forefathers used to drink, and that his forefathers have taken his own portion of the drink and it's in his blood. So once he just starts, the action will come naturally. Can you imagine that? All right, so they gather around him, dancing and clapping and singing, telling him, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then he agrees to play the role of the lost traveler. So he will imagine that he opens an imaginary door, locks the door, starts the engine, the car refuses to move. He comes out again, he kicks the tire, which is one of the ladies. But at a point in time, he kicks one lady and she bites him on his leg. So he runs away into the forest. Now in the forest, he's encountered with several animals, the lion, the snake, the monkey. And eventually, after running for dear life, he comes to a particular spot where he rests. And then he takes the last pint of his alcohol. And then he begins to hear sound of singing just directly opposite him. But there's a forest covering whatever was singing on the other hand. So out of anger, he throws the can of alcohol, which he has just emptied. He throws it in the direction of the voice, but is rewarded with a splash and someone cursing from the other hand. So, in dismay, thinking whether animals have started to talk again, He clears through the bush path, but unknown to him, land which he's stepping on in the bush path is almost finished. The rest is water. He takes out his camera. As soon as he clears the last strand of bush, he sees a figure, a dark figure, who happens to be Sidi. He removes his camera and tries to snap. He snaps, but he doesn't like the view. He tries to adjust the focus, and then he misses his leg and falls into the water. Sidi, who is having a bath with soap all over her face, is surprised at the deep sound into the water, thinking it's an animal. Washes off her face, only to see the lost traveler bring his head out of the water. She screams. That part's very confusing and funny. You know that moment where you are totally naked and somebody brings out the head out of the water. You don't even know where to cover, whether it's up or to cover down. Confusion enters. But she rushes out of the water, picks her clothes, rushes to the village, and tells everyone. In return, men came and whisked the lost traveler away. So this is supposed to be the story. And this is the flashback. So they are acting it now. Now they've acted it up to the point where he fell into the water and the Sidi runs to the village to tell people. Some guys came and they whisked him away. Now the next part of that lost traveler story. Don't forget that they're having a flashback. They're trying to play out what really happened, how the lost traveler came to Ilujinle. So the moment they get to the palace, the person whom they went to report to was the same Baroka who is now the Baale, who is the Baale of Ilujinle. He was also the Baale then. This thing that happened not about 8 to 12 months before this current action. So in all, they have acted it up to that point. Now nobody to play the role of Baroka. Do you remember that Baroka was reported by those girls that he was looking at the pictures and is jealous and sad? So he has just observed that it's like everybody in the village, they have gone somewhere. Only he was seated in the palace, moving around an empty village. And so his mind goes to the village Odontri. At the point where Lakunle, who is the lost traveler, has been taken, as if they want to take him to Baroka. Baroka himself appears at the scene of the drama. So everybody just quickly abandoned their roles and they greeted him, KBSU. So he was like, what's going on? Well, you guys not acting a drama before I got here now. He said, we were. He said, then very well, carry on and continue the story. So where were you? Oh, I think I came right on time. You were bringing him to the Baroka, right? And here I am, I'll play that role. And so he just zooms into action. Others were confused, they didn't understand what was going on. Immediately he said, seize him, bring him down. Lakunle is confused. He thinks that Baroka wants to deal with him, for running after Sidi. It was then Baroka says, what are you doing? Are you not supposed to be acting? Act your role now. I'm acting mine already. Oh, so Lakunle just zooms into action and says, please don't carry me as if he's the lost traveler. And so they bring him down. He begs everybody the way the lost traveler did that time. He told them that he's a lost traveler, that he missed his road into Ilujinle, but he can make Ilujinle popular by taking pictures of the village and of the women and of every single person in Ilujinle. So we see him being celebrated, and then the Baroka tells every villager to go and get dressed to come back for a celebration for the lost traveler. As they run off in a direction, Baroka picks the magazine. He looks into it, smiling at Sidi's picture, and then he reveals to the audience that it's been about 4 months now since he has picked a new wife. He smiles as the light goes off on him on stage. And this is the end of Mourning, the first part or the first act of The Lion and the Jewel. All right, watch out for the second part. I might combine noon and night together in one piece. See you guys. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead now and subscribe so that we can be able to serve you more effectively and we can have a wonderful time together. Don't forget, learning is fun or can be fun if you subscribe to our channel. Love you guys. Bye.